Chicago, which is higher. In other words, the majority of it is a good balance between Bolingbrook and Plainfield at this time. So if there are some people whose children are using the LCSRA at this time, because it's not a major issue, I am not concerned, and I support it simply because I live in special education. If the preponderance of people using this organization were not from this area, and say you only had 20% of people using it, and 20% were funding 20%, were funding 100% of it, and the rest of the people using it were from, Chicago or something, that would be something to be concerned about. But the numbers in the graph that she showed show that that's not the case.
Well, let me, on the fall 2014, they have 354 users. 54 of those participants were from out of the district. So it's about 15%. So that's my concern, that, perhaps we should address that issue. Because I don't think that the people, the taxpayer from our district should be subsidizing somebody else's kid. I mean, they're welcome, but as long, they pay the fair share.
Peter, both Cheryl, Corinne, and I sit on the advisory board as the Plainfield representatives, and we can bring it up as that topic and then report back to the board as to what direction the board went moving forward.
Well, in this case, like I said, I think I understand what Pete's going through in regards to charity starts at home. If we can't take care of our own people, we're taking on other, and we're shelling out the dollars, the tax dollars. That's my strong point.
That's what we'll bring up we'll bring up the non-resident aspect at the next advisory board meeting that we sit on.
Because you're looking at, the balances from paying 50/50, but really, Bolingbrook's showing more residents use, and we're not, a little bit less. And plus, at the same time, you're promoting with outside, people coming in. Like I said, we all feel, for the disability, for disabled. But at the same time, we have to make sure we're showing the taxpayers where their monies are going. Thank you.
And we inevitably have people that go to other SRAs to participate in their programs as well. It's not as if this is just a one-way, so.
I'd just like to thank you and congratulate you and your staff. You're doing a wonderful job. The pictures are great and the services provided are obviously great. So thank you very much.
Looks like they're reporting. Next up is Jean, Director of Parks, with a waste and compost report.
I'll stand up.
How are you going to segue this, Gene?
I was going to take pictures and use them. We won't do that. We had a long-running question in the district. I think ever since we took over the equestrian center, people have asked, why are we paying to get rid of the manure? Isn't there a different way to get rid of the manure? Some of the, and I'm an old farm boy from Elwood, and I've worked with some of this, and I just decided, hey, it's time to do one concise report to answer everybody's questions and answer questions that could come in from the public. Okay, and that's what the first report, the manure report, is. It's basically information. The high points of not using manure on farm fields is that it's so uncontrollable. You can have, as you're spreading the manure, you can have a very heavy rate of chemicals or nitrogen or so forth. It can be heavy enough to actually hinder seed germination and maybe kill some of the seeds. And you can have part of it low. There just is no control. There is no, there's no guarantee at all of where your nutrients are gonna go. That's why nobody that's why, I've contacted other park districts, I've contacted a few area farmers, they just don't do it. They don't get their 120 bushel per acre corn crops from using manure. They get it by using store-bought fertilizer. And the cost justification is there. They may pay a bit more for the fertilizer that comes from the country store, but their yield is much higher. So it balances out to them. By using manure, it's just so unsure that nobody uses it. They
I
don't
thought
want
this
it.
was really helpful. I thought that to have all this right in writing was really helpful.
It was good.
The other thing is about the manure, not to drag this on, but it does, raw horse manure does contain pathogens.
That's what I was gonna ask.
I'm not ruling out if another park district or somebody with the proper controls called me and said, can we have a dump truck load or 2 dump? Yes, I would work with them as long as they had the proper controls and education to do it. I would work with them. But to just give it to homeowners or other people, there are diseases that can come from this, and I think somewhere around the back, somewhere we could end up being responsible, so.
Well, that was my question, Jean. If we were to compost it, what would we have to do to prevent pathogens from our staff that are?
The composting actually gets rid of them.
Does it? Okay.
The
But
heat gets high enough.
The
to where it
beginning
kills
part of
them
the
off.
process, would they be exposed?
You would have to wear the rubber gloves and so forth, the person would have to be trained. There's an education behind composting. It's not rocket science, but still education, so that you don't get sick. And there again, once it's composted, then you could get into using it for a future tree nursery or on our own plant beds and so on and so forth. Because not only does the composting kill off the bacteria and so forth, but it evens things out so that if you spread a layer on top of a plant bed, it will be more of an even benefit.
Well, the point that's coming across is that what is the aspect of looking at cost savings? You tell me that there's no cost savings, but there's got to be a method of cost savings out there. You're talking about putting the word out for people that want to use it. I'm gonna sign a piece of paper saying waiving all, situation in regards to whatever pathogens or whatever the situation, disease can may occur. But at the same time, you walk a dog, takes a poop, you might as well say the same thing. What are you gonna condemn your property because a dog took a poop on your land? Because you may pick up some kind of pathogen. I don't understand it. The thing is, when it comes down to fertilizer and so forth, mulch, if it's the real thing, I'm sure we could work out something where we can also have land. Talking about horses like alfalfa, was it alfalfa? Or, okay. Let's not growing our own alfalfa, because like I said, that's also an expensive crop too, where we can make monies to help support the stables itself. So there's all, look at the matters around, hey, we're spending a little bit too much monies, we're looking at savings, we gotta look at all the different options in regards to where it's gonna be cost effective,
Well, I think
we should keep on striving on looking at those matters.
I think we definitely should and will look at all the options.
Right.
But this would be a one-on-one thing where I don't really would be very afraid just going out and saying, here, Farmer Jones, here's a truckload of
Well, if
manure.
we produce a waiver form, and they take it, and, where we might be held liable.
But they're not smart to do it, because when you, not just pathogens and stuff, when you use raw, uncomposted, either manure or even leaf clippings and grass clippings and leaves, those things remove nutrients from the ground in order to compost, to break down. So a farmer needs to be in control. And these days, they are very much in control of what they do. And for them to take a risk of using our manure raw, you don't know what it will leach out of their soil.
Well, the point is, if they're willing to take that, willing to take it.
I don't think
and
they are.
Well, if they are, we don't hold anything back in regards to, hey, somebody wants to take it, let me take it. But they just sign a form that we're not gonna be held responsible for, in regards to any kind of,
Of the area,
repercussions.
right, but of the area farmers that were surveyed, none of them wanted it.
One of the things.
Well, let's leave out the farmers. Let's
Okay,
talk about
one of the things,
everybody
and
else.
I'm not,
Yeah.
I don't think we'd be opposed if something of that came up and we went through legal matters to make sure we were covered.
Right.
But right now, from our initial investigation at this point, we have not seen that it would be a cost savings, because unless we can remove enough to where we can eliminate the dumpster portion, it's not per the mechanism, or per the size of the dumpster, they're gonna still come once a week, whether we have a fourth of it full or the entire thing full, they're still gonna be removing the same amount. So therefore, we would not, if we're still incurring the costs, until we would get to the point that we can ensure that we would not be needing a dumpster any longer, we would not save any costs at this
Also, the
time.
point is, we've been looking into cost savings with other competitor haulers.
Yeah, we do that,
Okay.
correct. We do competitive bidding, or not bidding.
Because,
we do
like I said, this is not
competitive
gonna
quoting
be
on
the issue
the
that the
haul.
cost is gonna cause.
Correct.
Continue on to go up and up and up.
Right.
And maybe just even half, hamper the stables alone to keep that place functional.
Correct, we do that with all our waste service removals and our
Okay.
Power Johns, et cetera, we do call quoting on an annual basis.
Can we hear about the second part, about the composting portion? Because I think there's a potential here.
Oh, there is potential in composting. Basically, what the composting does is you turn it, you keep it at a very hot temperature to kill off the E. coli and the bacteria. You moisten it. It does take time. It's not a process that just happens by itself. You have to monitor the dampness of the compost. You have to monitor the dryness of the compost, and at times spray it down with a little water. So it does take some care to get it right, but once it's right, it is very usable on plant beds, future tree nursery, so on and so on. What the composting does, it evens the chemicals out so that they're safe to work for, and once you wait a layer or so on, it's it'll work for you. It'll work for you.
Now, you're talking
Our
about-
question would be, how much would we have to compost? Or my question is, how much would we have to compost to make it monetarily worth our while? I think as a park district, it's kind of our duty to go green and at least try to compost and learn more about composting. I've got a report here, but I haven't gone out and actually done this so that I could come back to you and say, hey, this works, that works. If I do 5 cubic yards a month, that's, we're not doing this. We're not practicing composting at the time, I think.
Is a motion in order that we, as a board, suggest to them that they do?
We could either do one of two things, because it's an expenditure of funds that wasn't put in it, you don't need a motion, but we can look at incorporating this into the 2015 shortened fiscal year budget so that we can properly plan, because there is an upfront cost involved. And then when the budget's approved, obviously the expenditure of funds is already included into there. So I would not say so much as a motion, but if the board deems us to start looking at establishing the funds for this moving forward, it's not gonna alleviate cost savings per se, but it will be more environmentally responsible.
And that's really important to me, and I think it should be important to our community too.
And that's what we want to see, what direction the board would like us to maneuver with this.
One more questions. In regards to the materials being hauled out, how many cubic yards are being hauled out per month?
I think it's a 3-yard dumpster, Cheryl, and it's picked up once a week.
50 cubic yards?
30 yards.
It's a 30 yard.
There are 30-yard dumpsters.
30-yard dumpster.
It's
This is a 3-yard.
Quite a bit there.
On a weekly basis.
In order for us to compost that amount, we would have to have a huge operation.
Well, like I said, we do have, okay, once you compost it makes it more neutralized, why can't we use it for our park districts? Since the smell's gonna be gone, basically dispersed and dried out.
Well, I don't think anybody'd have a problem with that once it's composted, as
Okay.
far as using it on a
Right.
future tree nursery, on our plant beds, so on and so forth.
And
You know,
another
to-
suggestion in regards to, you're talking about 100, was it, increasing another person to test it and everything else. Isn't there a person working at the stables right now hauling compost? Are they well protected with rubber gear and so forth when they're hauling that stuff around? How do you have respirators or, you're talking about all this safety, diseases that are flowing around?
There are people that
people
work there
walking
now
around
who
with
could
masks?
do it, but then
You know.
you're still gonna have to look for somebody.
Well, I'm saying is, you walk into the stables, do you have to have a mask on, and do you have to have rubber gloves? You're talking about all these diseases and situations that are right there at the stable.
It
But
is
if you're hogging out there with the,
direct
you
contact.
know, it's an area that crosses it, what's the difference in regards to,
Well, I think Mary just said it, there's no direct contact.
Right,
We
direct
use a skid
contact.
steer, we
Right.
scoop it up, we take it out, we dump it in the dumpster. There's no contact. When you take a couple skid steers out and have to literally,
how do you
They call this-
How do you get it out of, stable
okay,
area?
they call this the squeeze
Got
test,
detail now.
to check for moisture in compost. How do you do it? You do the squeeze test. How do you do the squeeze test? You stick your hand in it and do this.
Okay.
Who's gonna get that job?
How do you smell?
Probably.
When it's composting,
Oh,
it's
you would
not
think-
as big
you know,
an
if
issue.
I call you, say,
Okay,
we have a
so
laborer
there is
out
quite a
there,
bit more
you have a
risk
person working
in
skid steer right
doing
now,
it.
when I haven't trained.
Somebody's shoveling that
you know,
stuff out of it.
So you got, you're talking about extra labor hours and so forth, I see a person already there doing the job already, so, regardless of this, regardless,
We're not insinuating we're gonna add an extra person, we're just saying about
well,
how
it
much
was
the
in
staff
it
time.
was in your shopping list.
Right, no, we're giving you about how much,
Yeah.
or what, sorry?
Your shopping list of
I'm
items
sorry.
here.
We're actually more so giving amount of how much the man hours would be for that, for doing this process. So if you wanted to itemize, like right now, whereas we're in some of the other benchmarking, trying to figure out how much man hours we utilize in mowing each section, et cetera. This was a rough estimation from the other park districts. This isn't to the minute, but this is what, talking to the other park
So
districts.
what is
based on-
our estimation?
we don't know, we haven't
We
done
have
it.
to work on it.
So we would actually have to do this process to actually tell you exactly what it would come out to be. We talked to the other park districts that do compost, they estimate this was about time, the average between their composting
So we don't have
process.
no experts here, in regards to looking at the matters?
We actually contacted, that's where we went through
Oh,
the
okay.
contact process. Speaking to Jim Brower, or going through some of the other park districts, such as St. Charles, Bolingbrook, 2 park districts that compost currently.
Okay.
So, is everyone on the board in agreement that staff should at least consider this for the next budget cycle to get started on this?
I think it's a good idea, we should.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Anybody having,
No way.
okay,
There's permits involved, there's neighbors involved. As soon as the stink happens, we're gonna have calls about that. There's gonna be cost overruns involved with that. I don't wanna deal with it.
Is the park district now running on deal on permits? I know we didn't need any permits when we do things on our own grounds.
You got enough space to compost per state regulation?
Well, do you have the facts in front of you?
I'm a little bit more familiar
Well,
with
can
them.
you produce those information so I
I
can see
can
it?
certainly look it up.
Okay,
Yeah.
Thank
I
you.
know that there's a certain
I'd
amount
like
of
to see
space
it too.
involved.
okay. I think all the commissioners would like to see that.
so do you want to bring this up
No,
again
they're
for
gonna do
discussion?
business again for Mike Small.
Sure.
Okay.
And for the record,
Maybe you'll get that information, Larry, since
I'll refer it to staff, sure.
that'd be great.
What's for the record?
so regards to, the commissioners can produce, information on regards to, the regulations and permits.
There's gonna be
Requirements.
between- Larry, if you don't mind, if we meet between now and next board meeting, I'd appreciate it.
No problem.
Because it would be something that we'd have to do near the stables, and the stables, I know, we're pretty limited for space as it is.
That means it's gonna be real.
Well, it would
close
have
that
to be the
subdivision.
location, that would be, you'd have to have water available, which pretty much either the equestrian center or perhaps Four Seasons you know, you have to have the flat ground so that when it does get too wet, you've got the runoff to worry about. There's a lot to consider.
Right.
Hopefully, most of that is in this report.
Well, and then if you're taking it from Normantown to Four Seasons, you're dragging it through town.
Right?
That's
You're
not a good
exactly
thing.
right. You're exactly
And-
right. And that's something else to factor in.
And I don't know, so I'm just curious, once it's composted and spread, does it still retain an odor?
If it's done right.
Not if it's done right, okay.
Yeah, no, it's not bad at all.
I was gonna say, that was one of the things we did find out is if, once it's like Bolingbrook, they'll store it as they compost throughout the winter months. And if it's properly done, the odor should be gone.
So we'll look at this again.
Bring this back up.
Any other discussion on the reports? All right.
Over.
The next thing then is action items. Item A, seeking a motion to approve a contract in the amount of $17,000 for the patriotic picnic and fireworks.
I'll make that motion.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second that motion.
Any discussion?
Yes, I got a discussion in regards to the fireworks post that's going to be presenting that fireworks display. Why are we going with the same, well, who's first quote? I like the fireworks, but fortunately after last year's fireworks display, I had a lot of people come up to me that they said they're, you know, kind of disappointed. At least they had, each about 30 or 40 people walking away that we should be looking into possibly another booth or doing some better finale. But regards to what was presented from last year, there was a lot of people unhappy in regards to the firework display.
Well, who's going to get the contract?
Right now,
We
right now we
figure
opened
that
up the
out.
conversation and we can discuss the two vendors, and I apologize, I was
Yeah,
reading that.
somebody's.
Yeah, right now we don't have the contract awarded. We have the two vendors, and between our review, we have a 17-year history with Melrose Pyrotechnics. Looking at the quote that they brought back, and I apologize, I got distracted, so.
Right.
They said this upcoming year, they are not looking, or they will not give us a specific shell count, they're not doing that with any of their vendors. They said estimate it'd be pretty much what we got last year.
Yeah, I read.
So that was Melrose, exactly, so that was Melrose Pyrotechnics, and then the other one was Sky Magic, we submitted a shell count. The question would be is, and then we'd have to go back and amend it to who we're gonna award it to.
Okay.
So right now, the discussion would be is if the board can come to consensus on which vendor they prefer to award this contract to. Because in the past, our traditional practice has been the board approves the amount with the naming a certain vendor. Moving forward, as we go into 2016, not the abbreviated fiscal year, but when we go to calendar fiscal year, one of the things that we can start doing is we can approve the amount with the budget, and then staff can do the due diligence to figure out which contract moving forward. But right now, we need the board, because of past practice and who we're allocating the money to, decide whether you prefer to go with Melrose Pyrotechnics or Sky Magic Pyrotechnics, and once we decide, amend the motion to award it to them.
Okay, sounds good.
So the motion on the table
It's
is.
just amount of $17,000 to be awarded, and now we need to decide which vendor.
And then we might select, insert that into the motion.
Yes.
Contrary to what you had heard, my experience was different in that most people enjoyed the show, but saying that I don't have a preference between the two vendors, so what does anybody else think?
Well, by looking at shelf numbers from last year to this year, Sky Magic has more shelf, what, 5,800, 5,880 shelf. Versus Melrose last year, what, 3,880.
Correct.
So,
It's a big jump.
yeah, it's a big, and I heard the same thing, you know, it's every year the same thing over and over, and it gets too old. In many ways, the time for, take a look at other, another vendor.
What's, we reiterate in regards to the shell count, like I said, it's over 2,000 more shells, plus a lot of more, like I said, longer lasting, no interruptions, you know, between seconds, between firing off the shells. I think Sky Magic, really big spot. You know, the way I see how they presented it.
Yeah, it's
Cheryl?
their presentation, but-
Yes, yeah, because you deal with this, do you know much about Sky Magic?
I did go and I checked references on the companies that they had provided me with. I was able to check 5 of the 10. I had called another 2, and we've been playing phone tag for a week. I can't seem to connect with the people in those offices. And they were all happy with them and had signed on with them again next year. So either company sounds to be a very reputable company. Sky Magic does not have any presentations currently in our area. The references that I checked were Casey, Illinois, City of Anderson, Indiana, Plainfield, Indiana, Dubois County Bombers Baseball, in Simpsonville, Kentucky, and an event company that's based out of Indianapolis that does corporate events.
So maybe they're looking to move into this area, so possibly.
After some additional research, after this memo came out, I did find out that they are a subsidiary of the company Mad Bomber, which is a local pyrotechnic, which is a company that we have looked at in the past.
Oh, okay.
But they are run by a different manager than the one who runs Mad Bomber here in the local area. Because
I felt just looking at their presentation that they really wanted our business, and I'm not sure I felt that way about our original vendor.
Well,
I agree.
I have no problem.
The only thing we preferred is we rolled out the third vendor as we went through on our end was Flashing Thunder. Just, we had some bad feedback moving into that.
So,
You know,
Who made the motion?
Janet and Rob
So
seconded.
if you choose to change, or whichever company you,
I would just insert it.
yeah.
You can maybe, it might be easier if we just maybe withdraw. Just want to
Okay.
withdraw on that, a new motion, yeah. You want to withdraw your second?
I will withdraw my second.
Okay, all right, you go withdraw your
So
motion.
I'll
Yeah,
restate it.
I'll withdraw mine.
Yeah.
So is there a motion to approve a contract in the amount of $17,000 for the patriotic picnic fireworks with Sky Magic Pyrotechnics?
And then to authorize the Director of Recreation to execute the contract.
So
I'll make that motion.
So Janet and
Okay, I'll
second,
second.
okay.
PT, what?
Okay, a motion was made by Commissioner Salowski that the Park Board of Commissioners award Sky Magic Pyrotechnics a contract in the amount of $17,000 for the 2015 Patriotic Picnic Fireworks Display and authorize the Director of Recreation to execute said contract, seconded by Commissioner Steinitz. Roll call.
Pierce,
Yes.
Furtado,
Yes.
Ludeman,
Yes.
Newton,
Yes.
Poling,
Yes.
Stein,
Yes.
Slosky.
Yes.
And Christie. Motion carries.
Okay, item B, seeking a motion to approve a contract for brochure delivery.
A motion to move that the Park Board of Commissioners approve a 3-year contract with Chicagoland Circulation, Inc., and authorize the Director of Communications to execute said contract.
I so move.
Second.
Any discussion?
Is this the same company we've been using? for
This
the last-
company
Yes.
was this past year.
This past year, I have issues with them,
We talked about
for
that.
sure. Some of the complaints that I got is, some of those brochures were wet. And I guess, well, they put it inside a plastic bag, but the plastic bags are not sealed, so therefore it gets wet, when it was raining. Also, by looking at the contract here, I guess one of the reasons we want to go with them is because they're willing to make a multi-year commitment. But when you look at item 5 on their contract, they said they have the right to terminate this agreement for any or no reason, but provided to the other party with written notice for the intent of terminate. It doesn't say how much in advance they're going to let us know if they want to terminate the contract and so forth. So I think that's probably something we need to look into it, if we decide to go with that.
Would you like some, in other words, you want it to be,
Well,
certain amount of notice?
if the reason, one of the reasons we signed it with them is because they give us a multi-year contract. I expect that to be guaranteed for the 3 years.
right,
But according to this, item number 5, they can walk away from that after the first year,
mhm.
and nothing else.
We can certainly make it, we can certainly make it that we could only get out of it. and we could do that if they'd be agreeable
Well,
to that.
if we can get ours, it's
We can
fine,
do it.
but, you know,
Yeah.
the issue is,
didn't do
if we are going with them because it's a multi-year contract, at least I want it to be guaranteed they're going to be, with us for the 3 years.
Right, it sounds like from Corinne's indication and Doug's indication that they would be agreeable to having it only on our end.
I understand, but I'm looking at the term, the agreement here, the contract,
Yeah.
here, the item number 5.
Right,
Are you ready?
yeah, so what we'll do is we'll change that, and we'll make it so
Revise
we
the-
don't get out of it,
the agreement, yeah.
right?
Yeah, we can change it.
So would that change our motion?
Subject to attorney review and modification.
Right.